The morning was busy in the sprawling estate of Ethan Caldwell, a 38-year-old tech millionaire in Greenwich, Connecticut. The household was bustling with preparations for a charity gala Ethan was hosting that evening. Staff moved quickly, arranging flowers and setting tables, while Ethan reviewed guest lists in his home office. Among the staff was Amara Lewis, a 32-year-old black woman who'd worked as a maid for the Caldwells for 3 years. Amara was reserved, her presence often unnoticed, as she cleaned rooms and ensured the house ran smoothly. She wore a standard gray uniform, her hair neatly braided, and kept her focus on her tasks, rarely engaging in small talk. Ethan's mother, Margaret Caldwell, a 65-year-old widow with a sharp tongue and a reputation for exacting standards, had arrived from Boston 2 days earlier to oversee the gala preparations. Margaret was known for her critical eye, often finding fault with the staff, particularly Amara, whom she viewed as too quiet, almost invisible. Margaret's visits were always tense, her demands pushing the household staff to their limits. That morning, Amara was polishing silverware in the dining room when Margaret stormed in, her face flushed with frustration. She'd just received a call from the caterer, who'd informed her that a last-minute menu change wasn't possible. Margaret, already on edge, turned her irritation on Amara, who was carefully arranging utensils on a sideboard. "Amara," Margaret snapped, her voice cutting through the room. "Why is this silverware still smudged? The gala is in 6 hours, and you're dawdling like you have all day." Amara looked up, her expression calm but attentive. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Caldwell. I've been polishing for the last hour. I'll double-check every piece." Margaret's eyes narrowed, her patience fraying. "Double-check? You shouldn't need to double-check anything. If you were competent, it'd be done right the first time." Amara nodded, keeping her voice steady. "I understand, ma'am. I'll make sure it's perfect." Margaret wasn't appeased. She stepped closer, inspecting the silverware Amara had just polished. "This is unacceptable," she said, picking up a fork and holding it to the light. "Do you even know what you're doing? Or are you just pretending to work?" Amara's hand stilled, but she didn't respond. She'd learned to let Margaret's criticism pass, knowing it was often more about Margaret's mood than her performance. But Margaret wasn't done. She grabbed the edge of Amara's uniform sleeve, tugging at it as if to emphasize her point. "Look at this," Margaret said, her voice rising. "Even your uniform is a mess. You're a disgrace to this house." The tug was sharp, and the seam of Amara's sleeve tore, exposing her shoulder and part of tattoo on her upper arm. The ink was intricate. A compass rose with the words Semper Fidelis etched beneath it, a clear nod to U.S. Marine Corps. Margaret froze, her hand still gripping the torn fabric, her eyes locked on the tattoo. The other staff members in the room, 2 other maids and a butler, stopped what they were doing, their attention drawn to the scene. "What is this?" Margaret demanded, her voice a mix of surprise and disdain. "You're a maid with a Marine tattoo? What's next? Claiming you're some kind of war hero." Amara pulled her arm back, covering the tattoo with her hand. Her voice was quiet but firm. "I served 8 years in the Marines, ma'am. Logistics specialist, 2 deployments. That's all I'll say about it." Margaret's face twisted into a skeptical smirk. "A Marine? You? I don't believe it. You're just a maid, and a sloppy one at that." Before Mara could respond, Ethan entered the dining room, his phone in hand. He'd overheard the tail end of the exchange, his expression darkening as he took in the scene, Amara's torn uniform, Margaret's raised voice, and the stunned silence of staff. "What's going on here?" Ethan asked, his tone sharp. Margaret turned to him, her voice indignant. "Your maid is incompetent, Ethan. I caught her slacking, and now she's spinning some story about being a Marine. She's lying to cover her laziness." Ethan's eyes flicked to Amara, who stood with her head high, her torn sleeve still clutched in one hand. "Amara," he said, his voice calm but authoritative. "Is this true? About the Marines?" Amara nodded, her gaze steady. "Yes, sir. I served from 2012 to 2020. Honorable discharge. I don't talk about it much, but it's true." Ethan studied her for a moment, then turned to Margaret. "Mother, you tore her uniform. That's unacceptable. Apologize to her. Margaret's mouth dropped open, her face reddening. Apologize? To her? She's a help, Ethan. She's lucky to have this job. Ethan's jaw tightened, his voice low but firm. Amara's not just the help. She's a veteran who served this country, something neither of us can claim, and she's been running this house flawlessly for 3 years. You will apologize, and you will replace her uniform. The room went silent, the other staff members exchanging glances. Margaret's hands trembled, but she didn't speak. Ethan continued, his tone unwavering. I've known about Amara's service since I hired her. Her background check showed her military record, and I respected her choice to keep it private. But you don't get to humiliate her in my home. Amara's eyes widened slightly, but she remained composed, her hands folded in front of her. Margaret sputtered, searching for words. You're taking her side over mine? I'm your mother, Ethan, and this is my house, Ethan replied. Amara deserves respect, not just for her service, but for the work she does here every day. If you can't give her that, you can leave. Margaret's face paled, her indignation replaced by shock. The staff stood frozen, unsure whether to continue their tasks or wait for the tension to break. Finally, Margaret muttered, I'm sorry, Amara. I shouldn't have torn your uniform. Amara nodded, her voice soft but clear. Thank you, ma'am. I'll get back to work now. Ethan shook his head. No, Amara, take the rest of the day. I'll cover the cost of the new uniform, and you're getting a raise, effective immediately. You've earned it. Amara hesitated, then nodded. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. As Amara left the dining room, the other staff members resumed their work, their movements quiet but purposeful. Margaret stood there, her hands clasped tightly, her authority diminished. Ethan turned to her, his voice low. We'll talk later, Mother. For now, let the staff do their jobs. The gala went off without a hitch that evening, the mansion filled with influential guests and glowing with candlelight. Amara wasn't there. She'd taken Ethan's offer to take the day off, but her presence lingered in the minds of staff, who shared quiet nods of respect. Margaret stayed for the event but was noticeably subdued, her usual commanding demeanor replaced by silence. By the next day, word of the incident had spread among the household staff and beyond. A delivery driver who'd overheard part of the exchange mentioned it to a friend, and soon the story of the quiet maid who'd stood her ground against Margaret Caldwell was circulating in Greenwich's tight-knit community. Ethan followed through on his promise, ensuring Amara received a new uniform and a significant raise. He also made it clear to the staff that disrespect wouldn't be tolerated, regardless of who it came from. Amara returned to work the following day, her demeanor as calm and professional as ever. She didn't speak of the incident, but her colleagues noticed a new confidence in her step. Margaret left for Boston a day earlier than planned, her interactions with Ethan strained. For Amara, the moment was a quiet victory, not just in earning respect, but in reminding herself of the strength she'd carried since her days in the Marines. The story of that morning became a quiet legend in the Caldwell household, a testament to the power of dignity and the unexpected impact of standing up for what's right. For Ethan, it was a chance to show that wealth and status didn't excuse cruelty. For Margaret, it was a humbling lesson, one that left her questioning her assumptions long after she left the mansion.